Hey folks, I'm Dave. Welcome to the basement. So March is in the books, and that means it's time for the second half of my March vinyl update. But before I get to that, I just want to give a quick shout out to a couple of new subscribers I've had since the last video. Really appreciate you signing up, and hope you continue to see some things that are interesting to you. So moving on, first album I want to talk about is the debut album from Nancy Sinatra called Boots. Came out in 1966, actually March 15th of 1966, so just celebrated an anniversary on Reprise Records. This is a mono copy. And yeah, I think most people are familiar with this album, but in case you're not, aside from the very well-known title track, this is just a great groovy 60s pop, beat pop sort of album. I can see folks wanting to kick back and sip a martini to this one. Yeah, I really found this enjoyable. I'll get to the title track in a second, but a couple of the tracks that I found were pretty interesting on here, pretty enjoyable, was Day Tripper, which is a cover of a Beatles tune. It's sort of a groovy big band sort of version. Really interesting, really cool. I don't know, I enjoyed it. Kind of cheesy, but I enjoyed it. Also, Lies has some interesting backing vocals, but still has really good energy and groove. And then, of course, there's These Boots Are Made for Walking, which was actually released as a single December of '65, I think it was. Written by Lee Hazelwood. Of course, the whole album's produced by Lee Hazelwood, and Lee Hazelwood and Nancy would go on her subsequent albums to work together pretty successfully. But yeah, that's just a iconic song with that. I mean, once you hear that double bass opening, you know what you're in store for. So that's a really cool song. For some reason, I don't know, even though I've known this song forever, when I hear it now, it always conjures up an image of a particular scene in Stanley Kubrick's film Full Metal Jacket. If you know, you know. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a good song. I think it's just, it's sort of silly pop song, but it's one that kind of those earworms. What I did seem kind of interesting is on the back here, there's like kind of a interview with Nancy. And so she asks Lee, how she should sing that song. And his response is like a 16-year-old girl who's been dating a 40-year-old man, but it's all over now. So that's like creepy. But I don't know, kind of gives some insight onto the song anyway. But yeah, anyway, 1966, this is Nancy Sinatra's Boots. Alrighty, next up is the self-titled album from a synth-pop duo from Switzerland called Double. This came out in 1987 on A&M. And so yeah, Double had a kind of a pretty decent hit from their debut album called, the song was called Captain of Her Heart, which was, not too bad. This album, though, which was their second and ultimately would be their final album, not nearly as successful as the debut. It's I don't know, it's a bit jazzy overall. It's definitely got kind of, I don't know, a low energy. I just really wasn't feeling this one. There wasn't much to at least hold my attention. There were a couple exceptions. Lakes in the Desert has some interesting Middle Eastern melodies to it, which I thought was kind of cool. And Close Enough was pretty much an exception to everything I've said so far about this album. That one did have some good energy, nice soulful groove to it. But yeah, it just was kind of not that, I don't know, not that gripping, I guess. I picked this up. I didn't really enjoy the first album all that much. I do have it, and other than Captain of Her Heart, which is, like I said, is an okay song. But I went ahead and picked this one up anyway because I'm OCD like that, and pretty much ended up the way the first album did, just kind of meh. But if that's your thing, you might want to give them a try. This is the last album, the self-titled one from Double. And this is Something's Going On by Frida. Came out in 1982 on Atlantic Records. And of course, Frida is a Norwegian-born Swedish singer, formerly member of ABBA. And this is really her third solo album, but it is the first that she did in English. So that's kind of interesting. Also, very interesting, it's produced by Phil Collins, and he does play drums on the album. He also shares vocals on a track called Here We'll Stay. Yeah, I think. Yeah, Here We'll Stay. And also a song called Know What I Mean, which is actually his song, which is from Face Value, which they cover here. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, overall, I think this it's a pretty decent pop album. It's a heavier pop edge than ABBA, for sure. Still, there's sort of just kind of I don't want to say low energy, but it's just kind of a sort of a mellow pop album. There are times when Phil just kind of lets go and jams, and that's kind of a highlight. Turn to Stone is a track on here. Where is it? Yeah, last track on side 1. It's very ABBA-like in terms of melody, and that was an enjoyable track. Threnody, which is the second track on side 2, some great vocals and synth there. But then, of course, there's I Know There's Something Going On, which was the hit off this album, and that's just a killer song. Great vocals, Phil's excellent drums, of course. Love the synth. It's one of my maybe top 20 favorite 80s songs. So this was cool to have for that track at the very least. The rest of it, again, like I say, it's okay. It's not bad. Just having Phil's drumming is kind of a redeeming quality. But yeah, not bad album. Definitely, if you're an 80s fan, this is one you should have. So yeah, this is Something's Going On by Frida. And this is No More Jinx by Wild Blue. Came out in 1986 on Chrysalis. And this is their debut and only album. And Wild Blue was a female-fronted band from Illinois, AOR band. And I put band in air quotes because essentially it was just Renee Vero, the singer, right there, backed by mostly session musicians. Although Curly Smith was, he drummed for JoJo Gunn, and Frank Baba whatever, was in Trillion. So kind of butchered that name. Sorry, Frank. So yeah, there's a little bit of some credibility to some of the musicians. Other than, I mean, not that studio musicians aren't credible. You know, digging myself a hole there. But anyway, so yeah, basically it's a project of Renee to showcase her vocal skills, which, you know, again, this was their debut and only. She really didn't do anything after this, so. But that's not to say it's bad. This is actually fairly decent, fairly good AOR. Heavy on the synth, decent guitar. A couple of tracks that stood out to me were Fire with Fire, kind of has a Pat Benatar vibe to it. Nice edge to the vocals, pretty good rocker. And International Language of Dance is much more of a new wave song than it is AOR, but it's still catchy, still fun. Yeah, so some of the tracks do drift from AOR into pop a little bit, but I think overall, if you're a fan of obscure AOR, this is one that you might want to check out just to see what it's all about. So yeah, this is No More Jinx by Wild Blue. Now this next one was sort of a blind buy. I have heard of the band, but I don't think I've ever heard anything by the band until this album. And this is Below the Belt by Frankie and the Knockouts. Came out in 1982 on Millennium, and I believe this was their second album. So yeah, I mean, looking at it, it definitely, I think it shows what it is. They were a New Jersey AOR band and they had a sound really similar to bands like Jefferson Starship, Survivor, maybe even Fleetwood Mac. So yeah, it was really, kind of up my alley. I dig that whole AOR thing, 80s AOR especially. Again, it's a pretty good album overall. It's not great, definitely enjoyable. A couple of tracks that I thought, oh, by the way, I didn't mention it was on the Millennium label. I think that's a pretty cool label. It's a simple design, but I just think it's pretty cool. Anyway, so a couple of tracks that stood out to me, let me get this back in here and flip it over and take a look, was Just What I Want. I had some third track on side one. Has some, I really like the guitar on that. Some pretty biting guitar during the second half of the song. And that's another thing about this album. Most of these songs just kind of start out a little bit slow, a little bit low energy, and then just build up as the song goes on, which is okay, which is cool. But it would be nice to have something that was right outside the gate every now and then. And then another one, Shakedown, which is the second track on side two, is a pretty interesting song. It's got some cool synth, nice bass lines to it. So yeah, this wasn't a bad one. Again, if you're into 80s AOR, this is something you might want to check out. So this is Below the Belt by Frankie and the Knockouts. And last up for March, no, it's not a Saxon album, but a guy whose videos I check out, and I think you should too, and I'll leave a link down below, is Dwayne, the Rockin Doc, up there in Canada. And one of his most recent videos, he showed the first album from a Detroit band called The Look, and they were kind of, I guess, new to him, and I think, at least if I recall correctly, kind of enjoyed him. So I thought I would dig out my copy of their second album, Look Again. And so this, again, is a Detroit power pop band, guitar-driven power pop. They have a lot of similarities to bands like Jay Giles, Greg Kihn Band, that sort of thing, just sort of fun party rock. And so on the second album here, which is pretty good, I don't know, I kind of enjoy this one a little bit better than their debut, but that's just me. But it also has some interesting things to it, which probably influences my thought on that. Album actually kicks off with a track called You Can't Sit Down, which is a nice sort of garage rock revival cover of a 1963, I think it was, DeVelle's tune. The video for that actually had some decent rotation on MTV back in the day, so that's pretty cool. And also on first side, this is another one if you want to check out, is Needle in a Haystack, which is a really grooving cover of the Velvelettes' 1964 tune. And the Velvelettes were a Detroit area girl group, so that's kind of cool. And another cool thing on this particular version, or on this song on this album, is the backing vocals are provided by Bob Seger's backup singers, so that's pretty cool. And then another one is the last track on side one is Ain't Gonna Take It, which is just a fun rocker with a catchy chorus. And yeah, I gotta, the first side of the album is kind of cover heavy, but the second side is all originals, and it's just a fun listen all around. So if you're into power pop and you maybe looking for something a little less than first tier, kind of maybe second tier, but no less as fun, is second album, Look Again, by Detroit's The Look. All right, then, that will put a lid on March as far as the vinyl update goes. Hope you saw something that was interesting, or maybe something you already have that you like. Drop me a comment, let me know what you think, and I'd love to talk to you about it. And maybe also subscribe if you haven't already. Throw me a like. Yeah, all that stuff will be cool and fun. So until next time, everybody, I hope you're doing well, and talk to you soon.